Hey there, and welcome to episode 4 of the Recruiting Masters, brought to you by the CFC Insider. We have Clint Uttley on the show today. Clint was a former U Sport head coach and is a national recruiting analyst and the head of the CFC Scouting Bureau, which develops the CFC 100, CFC 150, and the CFC 60 top player class rankings. Welcome to the show, Clint.
Hello, Katie. Thanks for having me.
So today's topics, we're going to be just summarizing the events or the tryout dates that are coming up, which is our next step towards playing in the CFC prospect game that's going to be broadcast on TSN on June 1st. Then we're going to look at the CFC 100 newcomers. We also released the CFC 150 list this past Monday. So we're going to take a look at some of those new faces. Then we're also going to go over what to expect at these tryouts coming up and some frequently asked questions that we're getting via email and on our social media. And then lastly, we will finish up with our recruiting tip of the day, which today is how do I identify the right program for me? So let's get right into it. But before we do, be sure to follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, @chatfootball, our Instagram, CFC_football, and our YouTube for more exclusive content. So Clint, we've got these events, these tryouts coming up. We're going to be in Vancouver, which is doubling with the Fox 40 Prospect Challenge from March 14th to the 17th. We'll also be in Winnipeg on March 20th, Calgary on March 22nd, Burlington, Ontario on March 25th, and then finishing off our cross-country trek in Montreal on March 27th. Now, both you and I and two other members from out here are going to be traveling onto all these cities, as well as other members from the Scouting Bureau, which will be at the specific events. So let's just kind of go over maybe what to expect in those trials. Not in too much detail. We're going to get into that later on in the show.
Well, just to touch on the events, like you said, they're going to start in that second week of March, and they'll go through the second and the third week of March. Those will be the prospecting tryouts, so they'll be a little different than what people are used to. There'll be a 5-hour block of time, and they'll be very specific, and they'll be very in depth with regards to the players and who's trying out. So players, and we're going to get into more depth about it, but there'll be a 5-hour window. There'll be an hour for administration and registration. There'll be a 3-hour block where we're going to do 4 combine tests. So your 40 and your broad jump and your 40 and your vertical and Powerball and T test. And then there's going to be very specific individual periods. So each will run 2 individual periods at a time. So not everybody will be out on the field at the same time. Those players who wish to go both on offense and defense, the positions for the most part will be staggered, so they'll get that opportunity. So they're going to be 5-hour events. They're going to be very in-depth, and there's going to be an information session at the end of each of them explaining basically the entire how things work for our showcases, our tryouts, and leading up to the prospect game or just getting your name on the 100 or the 150.
So as you just mentioned, the CFC 100 and the CFC 150 player class rankings, which you can find on CanadaFootballChat.com under the rankings tab. You do need to have a CFC Insider membership to view those rankings. So make sure you go on our site and subscribe to our membership today. But so we've got these, we've listed it. We have a few newcomers, and some of the newcomers, they kind of jump on and off the list, but these ones that we're talking about today we've never spoken about. So it's kind of exciting because it's kind of it's their debut on CFC, I guess we could say. So the first one we have here, which we were completely unaware of, which is crazy considering he has 3 Division 1 offers already, out of Lloydminster, Alberta, defensive end, 6'4", 225, Josh Dunham. Now, how did we miss him, Clint?
I have no idea. Basically, one day we got an email. At first, we read the email, and we were like, yeah, okay, sure. And
we get a lot of those emails.
We get a lot of those emails. So we followed up like we always do, for the most part. And unbeknownst to us, there was a rush end defensive end type in Lloydminster, playing on the same team as Anton Amadrin.
Amadrin, yeah.
Yeah, great quarterback. If you're not taking a look at him, you should be taking a look at him as well. But back to Josh. At first, we pulled up his freshman film, or I believe it might have been his sophomore film. We're like, meh, I don't think so. Pull up his junior film, and yep, there was Josh Dunham running all over the field. Had a fantastic frame and like wingspan, and he actually could, at 6'4", 225 pounds, I think he played last year, 215, could actually run and chase people down. So that led us to some more research, and apparently, and it's at this much, it's been confirmed that he has like Florida Atlantic somehow offered a kid from Lloydminster, as did Southern Miss. And at first we couldn't track who had offered him. And then we actually did a search online and did a search with one of the big recruiting, I guess, companies. We don't call them companies, but the people who do we do 247. We searched 247, and he actually has an offer from a Big 12 school as well. So, yeah. So out of nowhere, here's this young man in Lloydminster, Alberta, who has 3 offers, which have been basically verified at this point. I sent a text message to one of the Can West schools and said, well, maybe one of the schools from his province and maybe a school in northern Alberta. However, and asked them, have you guys, or are you guys tracking Josh Dunham? Never heard anything back, and then I heard that, no, they weren't. So, anyways, I guess he was hiding in Lloydminster. And hopefully now the world knows, because if you watch Josh Dunham's junior film, you're going to be...
It's fantastic.
Really impressed. And you got to love recruiting Alberta kids, especially, you know what, kids from like maybe a smaller city, maybe a little more work ethic tied in there. I don't know. Just saying.
So congrats to Josh. We'll be excited to see what he does in the next season. So now we have Kamal Neverson, a defensive back from Quebec, from Dablevue, 6'2", 175 pounds, also the class of 2020. He's a big, tall, physical defender. What's with Neverson?
You know what? We watch film, and as you go through lots and lots of film, and you're looking at DBs, and you're like looking at DBs in the below 5'11", and there's a lot of them, and a lot of those kids can turn their hips and run and do that sort of thing. But then every now and then we come across these DBs, and there's like 3 or 4 of them who are maybe they're corners, but they'll probably turn into safeties at the next level. But there's going to be a couple of really good DBs, and hopefully they get a chance to, or they get out to our tryouts and get into the prospects game. But like that are like DBs who are over 6 feet tall and who are pushing over the 175 mark. You know, heading towards the 180 or the 190.
And are still quick.
And can still change direction, can put their hands on people. They're not afraid to come up in the run game, whether it's as, in Canada, a cover 3 corner coming down late and being like a secondary container or whatever, a secondary support guy. These guys all did that. But Kamal, he demonstrated that. And I mean, like, Kamal goes to Dablevue, which is in Quebec, just on the outskirts of Montreal. They have so many athletes there.
Yeah, we're finding quite a few from there just recently.
Oh, yeah. I believe it's Gilles Leslie, their head coach. I mean, he's got some athletes there. Tomorrow we're going to do a pod, and the nose tackle is actually from that school as well. His name is, it's escaping me now, Josel's his last name. He is outstanding, but Kamal is he's 6'2", and you can't, that's all you really need to say. A 6'2" DB who can actually flip his hips and run and is not afraid to tackle people.
And you've got another DB from Dablevue on there, and his name is Nelson Tawa. I actually think I've heard his name before. 6'1", 215 pounds, and he just says athlete all over.
Oh yeah, well, I would love to that defense at Dablevue because they had two. Yeah, the secondary, but then you've got to think this year they had Keishon. Was it Keishon or no? Tara Conji.
Yes. The
inside linebacker, who coincidentally lined up beside another inside linebacker who's going down to a.
Name?
Yeah. So, anyways, like the Dable View defense, like honestly, there's probably like I don't know 5 or 6 legitimate university prospects on the defense alone. So, but like Nelson Tawa, how about you're looking at a high school defensive backfield, and at safety is a 6'1", 250 pound, 215 pound DB, and outside on the corner on that same side is
6'2".
Kamal Neverson, who's 6'2", 175. So I mean, yeah, they're both really talented enough that they caught our eye, and obviously that if you're going to go into Quebec, or if you're already in Quebec and you're a youth sport or a CJIP, they all know where Dable is, or they better figure out where it is. So.
And then we've got out in BC, so on the opposite side of the country, we've got Jamel Mensah, athlete, 5'11", 175 pounds. He looks extremely quick on his film. He also has great feet, and he's quite dynamic. He's going to Episcopal, correct?
Yep. He's one of the young men who decided to take the prep school route, so he headed down to Episcopal. I know Episcopal will push up into Canada now and then, and get kids. So I mean, yeah, he went down there. I noticed him through his summer workouts, and a lot of these kids, you'll kind of track him on Twitter and take a peek here and there. And his film was impressive. And then there's a couple things where I saw him do some drills, and his feet were awesome. They were he has quick feet. He can change direction. So it reinforced the video to me that the fact that he is extremely athletic. So yeah, Jamal jumped out that way. So, yep.
And then we've got Cody McMahon, a defensive end, 6'4", 225 pounds, also from BC Mission. Actually, he's an athletic edge rusher, and man, can he run!
Yep, Cody totally, like if we were gonna say Josh Dunham, he's same type of player as Josh Dunham, same size. Josh has obviously is getting quite a bit of interest, or not. He's just kind of randomly getting NCAA offers in the middle of Alberta. But I mean, Cody McMahon, if you get a chance to watch his film, he goes to Mission Secondary School, and I know they run the double wing on offense. So you may not want to watch too much of the offense because he's obviously probably not getting the ball. However, defensively, playing rush end, defensive end, he's even athletic enough to possibly even play at linebacker.
Yeah.
Cody can just flat out run. And you know what? He's got the frame. So you could fill him out, turn him into a defensive end, whether you want to play him on the boundary of the field. Or honestly, I think I can't speak to his instincts, but he has the size and athleticism. He would be a massive linebacker at 6'4", 225 pounds.
He kind of reminds me a little bit like Simon King out of St. Francis in Calgary.
Yeah, Simon's the exact same way. The only difference would be is that we've seen Simon
him in person,
play the linebacker and in person, and Simon can run. Yeah. And he's pretty agile. Well, he's actually extremely agile for his size. I was actually, when we were out at the first showcase in Calgary, Simon totally impressed me, along with him and one or two of his teammates from St. Francis.
So then we've got heading back over into the center of Canada and Ontario. Russell Dixon is athlete, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's just a great all-around athlete, but he's also a solid route runner.
Yep, Russell's from Alberta. He's made his way out to St. Joe's Football North, so that would be the Football North that's in Ottawa. But yeah, I mean, if you get a chance to watch Russell Dixon's game film, I know St. Joe's kind of had some injury issues last year and played a uber competitive schedule. But if you get a chance to watch Russell Dixon's highlight video against some really good teams, he made some really good players look really bad. So, I mean, I kind of see Russell as an inside classic Canadian slot receiver is what I see him as. Can run. He's not afraid to run routes in the middle of the field. He's got to work on his corner route a little bit, but he got himself open and made catches both over the shoulder on the inside and the outside. And he seemed to really have a good level of compete. So even when he was covered, he was still catching balls and making plays.
Yeah, he's not afraid to go up and grab it.
No, not at all. He's like I said, he's your classic inside receiver. I mean, he's a slot and a big physical slot.
Another big athletic playmaker that you've got on here is out of Catholic Central, which is another really powerful or good program in Ontario, is the receiver, 6'1", 200 pounds, Rayshawn Blake. What's with Rayshawn?
You know what? Rayshon's actually a really good player. I'll take part of the blame for that one. When we evaluate the top teams in Canada, I mean, usually on some of those elite teams or those top, we'll say top 10 teams on the CFC 50 high school ranking, we'll usually identify between 5 and 7 players on a single team.
On each team.
Yeah, but we don't usually rank all 7 players. That might have been the case. Rayshawn was in the bullpen. We kind of knew who he was. Most likely, he could have very well been on here sooner, but he has a lot of talented teammates who are seniors who were in front of him. So, but I mean, Rayshawn is a really good football player. His grade 11 film demonstrated that. He made some really nice plays, look easy. He also demonstrated he can get vertical and get deep, and he seemed to like catch the ball from the clips we watched. He seems to catch the ball pretty effortlessly.
And then we've got a 6 foot, 290-pound defensive lineman on here, Colin Howe. He looks like your classic interior D lineman. He can anchor pretty well and penetrate. It's pretty disruptive, but at 6 foot 290, he may get kind of clocked over a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who look at numbers and they get stuck in numbers. I don't think numbers are terribly important when it comes to nose tackles. Colin will be a nose tackle. He could even play 3 technique. More of a U Sports prospect at this point in time, but like he's like what you're looking for. He demonstrated in some of the drills that he's just simply not going to get moved. And then when we got into the pass rush 101s, he actually was able to get vertical and get upfield and make some nice moves where he literally not just won the one-on-one or not just demonstrated a nice initial pass rush move, but he simply blew by the offensive lineman. So, I mean, and he just gives you that impression of a young man who's just a baller, like just a football, like old school football player. So much so that when we came back from the Burlington showcase, we were quite curious to who he was and where he was from, and we totally tracked him down.
Did some research on him, yeah.
Yeah, I did some more in-depth research on him, and I was completely surprised. He was the starting running back on his high school team. So, I mean...
that's 290 pounds.
Oh, yeah, you see a picture of a young man playing running back. He's 6 foot, 290 pounds, and he's wearing an offensive line number in the backfield. And at first, it was like, no, that's not the right guy. And then it was like, oh, he must have a brother. And then there was a picture of him in the local newspaper.
And it was him.
It was him. And he was playing running back at 6 foot, 290, wearing a ridiculous number. And maybe, yeah.
Good for him.
They need new jerseys at that high school, by the way. So.
And then we've got, we won't get into the aesthetics of the whole.
I just did.
And then we've got Ty Bennett, an offensive lineman, 6'1", 250 pounds, out of Wesleyan High School. He's a great center, and he actually looks really feisty on film. And he kind of reminds me of a young Angus Reid, who actually just has a great book out right now called Thank You Coach, if you want to go and grab it. It's a really good read, but not to plug his book or anything, but just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ty Bennett, he's a pretty good player.
Oh yeah, Ty. When we were watching the film, because when you go to over the years, say you're a visiting coach at a CFL camp, you'll see these, and it's seen it in more than one city. You'll see the Canadian center, the veteran Canadian center, who in the past there seemed to be every now and then there'd be one. He looked exactly like that, just the way he dressed. He reminded me of Angus, and he also reminded me of Chad Folk. Who played for the Argos, but more of Angus. But yeah, he totally reminded me of that, just from the way he dressed, to his demeanor, to the makeup of his body. Like, I mean, Ty he is 6'1" is being generous. First of all, Ty was about 250, maybe a bit more, but like literally 200 of that was below his belly button. And he was like, all the weight was below his belly button or in his arms.
He is an anchor.
Yeah, he was able to like really anchor. And here's Here's the really impressive part about Ty, and for those of you who are football fans, you'll truly appreciate this, especially if you're offensive lineman. Ty is an offensive center. I don't believe he goes both ways. He probably did a little bit. However, as an offensive center, Ty was nominated as the league MVP. And I believe he won the league MVP as a center.
Good for him.
So for those of you who know anything about football, never ever have I heard of the center being named the league MVP. I'm sure in Angus Reid's case, he probably, was close to that a few times. But yeah, Ty Bennett is going to be a legitimate all-conference center at the U Sports level. If Ty was 6'4", 280 pounds, he would probably do it at the NCAA level. So if that kind of bends Ty out of shape, sorry, bud. But the reality is Ty will be an all-conference center at the U Sports level. And I'm calling it right now, just like Babe Ruth called that home run in 19 whatever.
You heard it here first, folks. Clint talk. So then we've got Evan Beck, the offensive lineman from Alberta. Harry Ainley actually is where he goes. Harry Ainley, we've spoken about a lot about that school in Northern Alberta. He's a pretty good technician with a solid frame at 6'4", 250 pounds. I was really impressed with Beck's performance on his film.
Yeah, I liked his film, and I believe he was at the Edmonton showcase.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, where you saw a good frame. So, I mean, he goes to one of the top programs in the province of Alberta. They're a perennial provincial power, you might as well just say that. They usually seem to push out one or two legitimate O-linemen every couple of years or every year. So, I mean, obviously they have another good tackle there right now. But I would say Evan Beck is probably the next one in the pipe. Behind, is it Albert Reese?
Yes.
So, yeah. And you know what? You can't really go wrong with a grade 11. Well, he's 2020, yeah. You can't really go wrong with the grade 11 tackle who started every game and is 6'4", 250 pounds. He's just got to lock himself in the weight room and kind of fill out that frame. So, yeah, he's got all the things you're checking off in the box. He's winning program. Football's important. He's 6'4", right? And then obviously you can add weight to a 6'4" frame.
So you can find the CFC100 and the CFC150, plus the CFC60, which is the top CEGEP and junior college prospects, player class rankings under the rankings tab on CanadaFootballChat.com. And you can purchase your CFC Insider membership today for access to these rankings, analysis, and daily coverage from across Canada. So at the top of the show, we talked about how we were going to go into a little bit more in depth about these tryouts coming up for the CFC prospect game, which is going to be broadcast on TSN June 1st. This is the first year that has ever been done with high school football players, football athletes from across Canada. So we're actually really pumped about this. This is going to be a great event. And so we're just in the process, or I guess the growing pains of learning how to roll this event out. And so, Clint, can you just maybe give us a bit more about who's invited, how many athletes are going to be at each combine approximately, who's running the event, coaches that are allowed to go there, the costs, things like that, because we're kind of getting, there's a lot of questions right now. People aren't really too sure about what's going on. So who is invited to these tryouts?
Right now, who's invited? So CFC ran showcase combines. The showcase combine was open to everybody. So there's two things coming out of a showcase combine. One is a CFC 100 attends a showcase combine, raises his stock, and possibly pushes his way up the list. All right, I'm not a CFC 100 and I attend one of those showcase combines. By attending that showcase combine, I've now possibly put myself on the radar to get an invitation to the prospect game. Prospect tryouts.
Now, not everyone who goes to that combine is going to get an invitation, which some people are automatically thinking is going to happen.
No, it's not. If they didn't establish themselves at the combine or demonstrate that they are an elite level athlete, then they would not get an invitation to go through. However, because there's a lot of players who are coming out of, say, their grade 11, working their way through their grade 11 year, the off-season such, Okay, so we weren't tracking them. So by going to the showcase combine, we are now tracking them. We've seen them in person, and as soon as we see them in person and we see heights and weights that we like and test scores that we like, we immediately follow up and go and try and find whatever film we can on you, right? And then at that point, you may very well go on the CFC 100 or the CFC 150 list and get an invite to the prospect tryout. So the whole purpose of the showcases is to build the 100 and the 150 and build the invitation list for the prospect tryouts, which is the camp that follows, or the combine, or the event that follows.
So how many athletes at each combine are you kind of gearing towards?
Right now, the number we're looking at is probably 40 athletes at each combine. Those 40 athletes are almost, if you think about a necessity, just because we're probably going to bring 3 or 4 quarterbacks. We probably need 4 running backs and probably 6 linebackers, just comparing positions. Receivers, we're probably going to bring 10 and 10, and pretty quick you jump towards 40, because out of those combines, we are going to pick the best 60 players in the country. So there's going to be 40 CFC 100s, say if they even all did attend, who won't even make the prospect game roster. Do you need to be a 100 to make the prospect game roster? No, you don't. If you jump out,
if you light it up at the
if you
tryout.
light it up, both at the combine part of the tryout and in the competitive drills part of the tryout, all right, you are not only going to raise your stock to the point where you get an invitation to the prospect game, you're going to push your way either onto the list or way up the list. I mean, there's the other part of that too, where if you show up out of shape, or if you don't show up at all, or if there's a matter where you just don't compete, or your level of compete isn't where your film initially showed us, well, then you could also, go down the list. So,
and or not get invited at all.
Or not get invited, which, I mean, let's be honest with you, there's going to be quite a few athletes who will go through this tryout process, and only 60 of them will go at this point. So it is going to be uber competitive. And honestly, I'm excited to see how the 100s do, the 150s do. I'm just as excited to see if there is some young person from some small town or small community who shows up and just dazzles us and basically ends up in the penthouse by the end of this ordeal.
Yeah, it will be exciting. I'm
totally
super
excited.
pumped about it. So I mean, I know CanadaFootballChat.com is running the event, but who, I know you and I are both going out there and you're in charge of running the actual combine bit. So who else can we expect to see running these events? Are these youth sport coaches? Are they high school coaches? Are they just people? Who are they?
So let's just one thing at a time. In the showcases, there was local community coaches who played a role. There was myself. There was a couple of other select coaches that come on the road with us, who are members of universities. There's 1 or 2 members of CFC. There's 1 or 2 members of the Scouting Bureau. So that's who did the showcases. So now on to the selection. So we're going to go to basically the selection. The selection, for the most part, will be covered off by myself with certain coaches, both from the Bureau, the Scouting Bureau, and we're going to incorporate the youth sports coaches in this part of the not in the evaluation, but in the actually running of the combines. On top of that, the actual combine portion in each city will be overseen by a strength and conditioning company, or has been basically subcontracted out, and they're going to, because that's what they are do professionally, they will run the 40 and they will run this and they will run that. So I'll oversee those. The strength conditioning specialists will be doing the warm-ups and the combines, and then we're going to include the youth sports coaches in the running of the indie periods and the competitive periods for the tryout portion of this.
And is this event is an open event, so please feel free to come and watch, as well as media. We would love you to come and report on the tryouts and all of the great talent that's going to be on display for all of us. But also, I know we've mentioned the youth sport coaches, but NCAA scouts and coaches, are they allowed to come and observe?
Obviously, the youth sports coaches will probably have access to these as they if they come to any of the events. We're going to incorporate them a bit more in the we did in the showcase in Burlington, and we're definitely going to in the tryouts, the prospect tryouts that are coming up. However, once we get into the actual the selection of the team will be done by a committee of 20 individuals with CFL, NFL experience, and some former U Sports head coaches, obviously with the scouting bureau involved too. So those people will be involved when we actually get on the ground in Ottawa. So you've made the team. You've flown into Ottawa. Okay, we're going to have a few days of practice leading up to the game. During the few days of practice, obviously the practices, there'll be opportunity. I'm sure the U Sports coaches will probably be there, more than welcome to be there. So there's nothing that says they can't be there. The NCAA coaches, within their calendar, they'll be on the road so they can actually come to the practices. And I'm at this point, I would I wouldn't be surprised if there's a handful of NCAA teams there.
Yeah, we've been in contact with you.
Yeah, we've been with a couple. And it's one of their periods too, so they can actually be there. Now, what's going to happen during the game is there'll be nothing that would prevent any of the U Sports coaches, so they'll all be in attendance at the game, I would assume. I would hope. If we're getting 60 outstanding, if we think the best 60 we found in the country, they'll be there. But the NCAA coaches won't be there for the game, but they will be there for the practice. At some point, we'll probably be able to push out who exactly is going to be there, and we'll confirm all the U Sports schools, and we'll confirm the NCAA schools that are going to be there. And you know what? If it's something that seems like it's the right fit, we'll push those names out just so everybody can see who's going to be in attendance. Because that's the big part of this is those 60 football players who have gone through the showcase 1, tryout 2, we want to make sure that they have a great experience, and not only is their name pushed out both off our lists, but it's kind of pushed out there through TSN, and it continues to get pushed out through our social media. So I'm assuming at this point, if you make that roster and you play in that game, things are going to really heat up for you in the recruiting world, if that's even possible for some of you. So,
and then the big ticket item or big ticket question that we're getting a lot is how much is this going to cost? Because I know there are other events which are quite pricey to go to. And CFC never wants a cost to be a limiting factor for any athlete to participate. At least we try not to make it that way. Can you give us an approximate cost on how much it will be to be in the game if you make it through the tryout?
Yeah, I mean the tryout. So the showcase, the cost I believe was $100, roughly in that range. So the tryout is in the 175 range. Yeah, 150 to 175 range. Okay, and then the actual to play in the game itself at this point, and I'm going to say it's 150 but plus tax. So let's say 175. Okay, so 175 is going to be the fee to play in the game. Obviously, you're possibly going to have to make your own travel arrangements. We're working on something to go along with that as well, being like donating air miles to the players at certain schools for the hope of them possibly doing it that way. That's not confirmed, so do not put that in writing. But what I will confirm is it's going to be $175 to play in the game, which shocks most people. But yeah, one of the things when this was all getting set up, it was like too often in my background being a youth sports coach and helping with different teams in different tournaments at different levels through my career, there was always players who were left off the roster because they couldn't afford it. At that price point, the whole thing is we want the best players in the country to play on our national sports network, which is TSN. So we want to make sure that you get that opportunity that if you really think about it, no other high school football player in Canadian high school football history has ever been through. Mm-hmm. So all of you players, this will be the first time in history. So not only will you make the game and raise your profile, but you're actually going to be making history, whether you're on the team that wins or the team that loses.
And cool.
Yeah, like just the sheer fact that you are going to probably be, let's be honest, you'll be the first high school game probably broadcast, I would
In
think,
Canada.
in Canada on TSN. You know, follow that up with the fact that you're going to have probably every youth sports program there taking a look. I would hope, or maybe not. That's up to them. And you're going to have a handful of NCAA schools who have now started to come up and take a look at some of the events. All right, so I mean, provided they're allowed to go on the road or you're following their calendar, right, when they can actually get out and see you. So it's a pretty exciting thing. And just to answer your question one more time, it is $175. So
It is. It's incredible. And, like I said before, all of us at CanadaFootballChat.com are really pumped about this event and trying to, we can't give it enough emphasis that this is something that we want to be at the most elite level. And unfortunately, not everyone's getting a ribbon. So, and I think that's what makes it special. And this is going to be a really great event. That's what you can expect from the tryouts, and then of course leading into the game and the game itself. And there will always be more detailed information that will come to you directly via email. So please check your inboxes, your junk mail. If you want to email us and ask if you've gotten something, I mean, we'll be more than willing to say yes or no. So just really be on top of that. So then lastly, we're going to get into our recruiting tip, which is how do I identify the right program for me, which again can seem like a pretty nonsensical question. And, a lot of people they'll pick some programs and they know exactly what they want and they have no problem determining that. But some athletes do have a problem with that, and they can't really differentiate between how to pick a program, what's best for them. So what do you think, Clint, when you, in your previous career, I guess we could say at the youth sport level, how would you advise athletes with regards to what could be the best fit for them?
Well, as I went on in my career, I would say best way to explain this is when I was a player and going through the process, I put all my apples into one basket, and I went after schools that interested me from a football perspective. So I was looking at things like, I'm a linebacker. How many linebackers do they graduate? What kind of system do they run? When, after basically 2 decades in youth sports football, 5 of those were as a player, you want to look at the academic. So it's like the best way to do it is if you have any inclination of what you want to do the rest of your life, you may want to funnel towards that program or faculty. Which school has that faculty, right? So what is the admission standard for that faculty, right? Stuff like that. What courses do I need in order to gain admission into that faculty, along with the grade point average? Do I have the courses? So you got to make sure you hammer that out. And then beyond that, you got to make sure that it's also, and I would say it's 70% academic fit. And then there is an athletic component to it because if you are a competitive athlete that comes from a winning program, you would probably want to find an institution who has a fighting chance at winning games because
it could be quite frustrating for you.
It could be quite frustrating, and trust me when I say, you could be in an awesome city, coaching at an awesome school that supports you. I'm not going to say, maybe I was in that position at one point in my career. However, you don't win as many games as you want to win, or you don't have the opportunity to play for a championship as frequently as you would like. That is going to play into your experience. And then there's even the most worst case scenario where you're in the perfect program and you love the academics, but your athletic team is terrible. And you're losing week in and week out. That will also have an impact on your university education to the point where your love for the game may disappear quickly and you may just be a student at some point. Which goes back
to... Which isn't a bad option.
Which is not a bad option. Which is why I said you have to look at, say, 70% is academics and fit. And then you have to actually be realistic with what level of athlete are you? Then you also have to be realistic with, yes, that school over there is recruiting me like crazy. It's a good academic fit, but they're 0-32. Okay, I'm probably going to get sold the whole thing of you're going to turn the program around, you're the foundation that's going to do this, and you know what? At that point, you got to roll the dice because you may be that incoming class that turns it around. But the flip side to that is you may not be. So I mean, academics first. Make sure you get the faculty you want, because that degree or whatever you learn in university, you're probably going to use that to get a job that could very well last 30 years.
You hope.
You hope, right? As opposed to you play university football for 4 or 5 years, graduate with an arts degree, and then go dig ditches.
Which could be a valid option as well. But so the athletes have, they're trying to navigate through this recruiting process. So is it their high school coach? Is it their student counselor at school in high school? Like, who should they be asking to help them with this? Their parents, because some parents are just as confused. So who would be a best person to help them through this?
I think if you can, I would identify your school and your faculty, go see your guidance counselor. And then have them take you through the entire process, look at the admissions process. And then when you know you can get into that school, or when you know you're taking the right courses, however, you still got to get the GPA to get into that school, then talk to your coach. And, for example, you want to take kinesiology at Acadia University. So you go in and you see your guidance counselor. Your guidance counselor says you're taking the right courses. Oh, that's perfect. All right. And then from there, you go see your coach and say, you know what, coach, I'm not the greatest football player in the world, but I'm all conference. I've lit it up all over the place. I'm not going to the NCAA. Okay. So then that means you're probably going to be an outstanding U Sports prospect. Okay. So Acadia is legitimate. All right. I'm just using that as an example. Right. And then from there, you know that you can compete at that level. You know you can get into the academics and the faculty you want to. So there you go. That's option number one. Now that's just one. I would say if you're serious about your education and you're serious about post-secondary everything and playing the game, you have to have 3 options. So you have to have one that's like option 1, perfect, the world is great. Option 2, maybe it's the best academic fit for me, but the team is struggling. Option number 3 is, you know what, they win every single year, but I'm not going to get into my faculty. Do I want to roll the dice and do that? And have those 3 options in place. And then it's just, it's going to come down to what your parents think, what you think. And then what I used to always tell every single player that I recruited was, what would you do if football was taken out of the equation? Where at that point would you go to school? And then usually that'll help you get to the answer you're looking for.
And should athletes be starting this in their February of their senior season? Probably not.
No, I would say most athletes by the end of grade 10 heading into the beginning of grade 11, you need to have this all sorted. Not the schools, and obviously not, but you need to have the course selection sorted. And you need to know what your GPA needed is. So by the end of grade 11, you're in the driver's seat, and
you'll be able to pick those programs a bit more clearly.
You're kind of directing and pointing yourself as opposed to responding and reacting late.
So that's another great recruiting tip. And so just common sense, really be engaged with your parents, your high school coach, as well as, like Clint said, your guidance counselor, and just really, pull on the support people around you, because they're there to help you, and they want to see you succeed and reach your potential. So better to lay it all in the open and ask a lot of questions and just really work towards finding that best program for you, so that you can have the best football and academic experience at that next level. So you can find this recruiting tip and all other recruiting tips on CanadaFootballChat.com. You can purchase your CFC Insider membership today on CanadaFootballChat.com. And don't forget that you can follow us on our Facebook, our Twitter @ChatFootball, Instagram CFC_football, and our YouTube channel for a lot more exclusive content. So thanks, Clint, for being on the show today.
My pleasure. It's always a lot of fun to come in and do the Recruiting Masters.
Great. So have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week.